Hi everyone, I'm Ng Ti from Home Educator Specialist. In this video, I will be going through notable GCE O-level elementary math questions with you. You may click on the link at our description box below to download the question and answer sheet. Let's take a look at this question. So in general, paper 2 of E-Math, we have quite a few algebra questions and the weightage is quite high. Hence, I want to discuss on this question. Generally, for algebra, we are able to check our answers. So let's look at this 2A. We want to solve the inequality. Okay, so how do we start this question? So for me, I don't really like to solve any algebra that contains fractions. So the first thing that I would like to do is to cross multiply and remove the denominators. I cross multiply, so what I'll have is 3 plus 3 multiplied by x plus 4 more or equals to 5 bracket 2 minus x. Next, what do we need to do? We need to simplify. For this, I will shift all the x to the left-hand side, the numbers to the right-hand side. So I'll have 3x plus 5x more or equals to 10 minus 12. So just take note when you shift, so the negative will become a positive, the positive will become a negative. Let's not make any careless mistakes here. So then we continue to do, so we have 8x more or equals to negative 2. And this gives us x more or equals to negative 1/4. I just want you to take note that the sign for inequalities, we are able to switch the sign. So when do we flip the sign? We only flip the direction from this to this direction or this to this direction when we multiply or divide by a negative number. We don't flip the sign when we shift a negative number. That is a different kind of concept. Okay, so just take note on this. For example, if I have x minus 2 more or equals to 5, when I shift it over, it still remains the same. I shift a negative number, it still remains the same. However, if I have negative x more than 5, and I want to form x, this is when I have to multiply by negative 1 or divide by negative 1. So in that case, I have to flip the sign and give me this. Okay, so this is what I mean by flipping the sign, and just take note because they tend to have some careless mistakes. So just remember, we only have to flip when we multiply or divide by a negative number, be it negative 1, negative 2, negative 5. Okay, so we are done with this question, but I would like to teach you how to check. Okay, so checking in algebra is actually very important because algebra is consisting of a very heavy percentage. As long as we have and we are able to check our algebra, more or less we are able to score with a decent grade. Okay, so let's not make any mistakes in our algebra. So how do we check? So here, since we know that our x value must be more or equals to negative 1/4, so what we want to do is we sub x equals to negative 1/4 into the inequality. Okay, so what is the inequality? The inequality given to us is x plus 4/5, 2 minus x over 3. So what we do is negative 1/4 plus 4/5. So what do we have? We know that it is 3/4. Then we also sub it into the other inequality. So 2 minus x over 3 equals to 3/4 as well. So you notice that when a number is negative 1/4, they should be equal. So in this case, your first check is correct. So we continue. So we want to ensure that the sign is correct in the correct direction. So for x to be more than negative 1/4, so we can choose a very easy number. So let's choose 2, maybe x equals to 2. So we just type in the calculator, don't have to write it out. So when x equals to 2, we sub it in, same thing, into the inequality. So we have 2 plus 4/5 gives me 6/5. And the other is 2 minus 2/5 gives me 0. So we know that 6/5 is definitely more than 0. Okay, so this satisfies the inequality. So generally your answer is correct. So same thing, we want to find the one that doesn't satisfy. Maybe when x is less than negative 1/4. So for example, so we write when x equals to negative 2. So just type into the calculator, don't have to write it out. Okay, so this is just a practice. So when x equals to negative 2, we have negative 2 plus 4. which gives me 2 over 5, and the other one is 2 minus 2 over 3. Okay, gives me 4 over 3. So what do we know? We know that 2 over 5 is not more than 4 over 3. Okay, so it doesn't satisfy the inequality, which is correct because we are not supposed to satisfy the inequalities. Your answer is correct. Okay, so more or less your inequality is already correct. Okay, so this is how we check. Okay, we must ensure that the sign in direction is correct. So let's move on to the next part. So 2b, we want to express the two fractions into one single fraction and is in its simplest form. That's one thing to take note. We want it to be in our simplest form. So we have 2y over 5 minus 2y minus 3y over 5 minus 2y, the whole thing squared. So this is quite a simple fraction to do because the denominator is quite straightforward. What do we have to do is only to multiply the first fraction with 5 minus 2y. We want to make the denominator the same. So we have 2y multiplied by 5 minus 2y over 5 minus 2y squared. Then we write in the second fraction. Because since we didn't do anything to the second fraction, we just put it there. So next we continue. Since the denominator is the same already, what we can do is we combine them together. Okay, so for me, I would like to combine first before I expand the first fraction or any fraction that has a bracket, because there's a tendency to make careless mistake if I expand before I combine. So normally what I do is I combine before I expand. And whenever I combine, just take note that I always put a bracket, especially when there's a negative sign here, because a negative sign can make a lot of difference. Okay, that's the part where many students make careless mistake. Then from here I expand. So what I'll have is 10y minus 4y squared minus 3y over 5 minus 2y squared, and then we just simplify. Okay, because we still have like terms here, 10y and 3y, so we just subtract them. So we have 7y minus 4y squared over 5 minus 2y squared. So we don't have to expand the denominator, it's not necessary. Okay, so one thing I want you to take note is do not factorize back the 7y minus 4y squared. Not needed. Okay, there's no point in factorizing back unless we can have simplification with the denominator. So here, see, this is our calculated answer. So we also have to check. We have to ensure that our answer is correct. So how do we check this? We do substitution. So since this is not any solutions, it is just simplification, we can use any value to sub into y. So what we do is, I like to use 2. So when y equals 2, we want to ensure that the question here and the answer that we got is equal, because you see, we use all equal sign. It means that no matter what y value, my question and the answer is always the same. So what I will have is 2 multiplied by 2 After pressing into the calculator, all these pressing calculator will do. So what we have is 4 minus 6, giving me negative 2. So this is the question value if y is equals to 2. So in order to ensure your answer is correct, we must make sure the answer that we have also gives negative 2. So we try 7. If you press into the calculator, you will get 14 minus 16 over negative 2. Okay, so this gives me negative 2 as well. So after calculating, it's negative 2, everything is negative 2. Since your answer in question gives you the same value, it means that your answer is correct. If you want to double check, triple check, you can use other numbers like y equals to 3, y equals to 4, y equals to 100, any number will do. Okay, then the marks is given to you already. Of course, if the value you calculated is not correct, after triple checking, it means that somewhere, somewhat, your answer, okay, there's a mistake error. Maybe your multiplication is wrong. Maybe your signs you forget to change. So you have to go and identify what are your mistakes. For me, when I check, I don't do it again, because doing it again doesn't help anything, because we will be quite registered with the way we already did for the first time. Okay, so when we do it the second time, we will always try our best to follow the first way on how we do it. So that's not a very recommended way for me. What I will do to check is to use substitution method. Okay, so let's look at 2C. So this is a simplification question. So we have 18h power 3, j power 3 divided by 5k power 3. This whole fraction divides by 3h power 5 times k over 10 g squared. Okay, so this is how we deal with indices. So first, whenever we have fractions and then we have a divide, so what do I normally do is I flip it into multiplication. The first fraction remains the same. What flipped is the second one. Okay, so after flipping, then we can do whatever we want. We have many different ways to do. We can do cancellation method. We can do combining. We multiply to each other, then we cancel. Either way works. Okay, so let's look at this method where I cancel first. We can cancel 5 and 10. Okay, give me a 2. We can also cancel h and h, gives me h power 2. And then we also can cancel 18 and 3, gives me 6. Because all these are dividing. The rest we cannot cancel anymore. So we have to combine them together. So what I'll have is 6j power 3 multiply by 2j power 2 over k power 3 times h square k. Then what we have is the numbers multiply, we have 12. When j cubed times j squared, it'll give me j power 5. Okay, why is because it's 3 plus 2. When we multiply, the power adds up together, not multiply, adds up together. So what we have is 12j power 5 over h squared. Same thing for k. Remember, k like this is power 1. So we will have 3 plus 1, so k power 4. This is our answer. So we have another method where some other students they prefer is that they combine before they cancel off. Okay, so let me copy the question first. They do the same thing, they flip first. Then, instead of cancelling, they actually multiply the whole thing together. So they will have 18 times 10, so they have 180, h cubed and j power 5. Then they divide by 15, h power 5, k power 4. From here, then they cancel. Or they can also write it as 180 h3 j5 divide by 15 h5 k power 4. Because essentially what do we have is 180 divided by 15. Okay, then we have h3 minus 5. Okay, then we will have j power 5 k power 4. Then it's the same thing. So 880 divided by 15 is 12. Then we will have, since h will eventually give me -2, so it will be h power 2 at the bottom. Then we will have j power 5 over on the top and then k over 4 at the bottom. So that is how different students do their indices. So this is the part where we have to know whether our answer is correct or not. So we have to check. Checking is very, very important. Now, this is a bit different from the way we're going to check for all the other questions. Why? Because here we have multiple algebras. Then what do we do? So just now I like to sub 2 into the algebra, right? Here I have 3 algebras here. So I sub 3 different numbers in all the respective algebra. So j equals to 2, h equals to 3, k equals to 4. Then I type into the calculator. So what I'll have is 12 times 2 to the power of 5, okay, over 3 times 10 to the power of 2, then 4 to the power of 4. Okay, so this gives me a certain answer, A. Then what do? This is our answer, right? We have to sub it in our question. So we have 18, 3 power 3. Then we have our j, which is 2, power 3 also, divided by 5 of k power 3 times 10 times 2 power 2 over 3 times 3 power 5 multiplied by 4. So it looks very complicated, but it's actually just putting into the calculator. So after punching it into the calculator, what we need to ensure that the values are the same. If the values are the same, it means that your simplification is nothing wrong. So this is what I normally do. You want to double confirm, you also can use different numbers also. Then, more or less your answer is correct. So let's look at the next algebra question. So we have somewhat indices again. So we have 16t power 8 over v power 12 bracket to the power 1, -1/4. Okay, so this is the part where they test on negative indices. So what does negative indices mean? Just a recap. Negative indices, let's say 2 power -half, it will be equals to 1 over 2 power half. Negative means bring it down or bring it up, depending where it is. So if it's on top, I bring it down. I flip it, I bring it down. Okay, if it's at the bottom, 1 over 2 power -half, I bring it up. Okay, so this is what negative does to your algebra. So in this case, when it's negative 1 over 4, it means that I have to flip your denominator and numerator. So it will equals to v power 12 over 16t power 8 to the power of 1/4. So I've already done the negative. That's the first thing that I will do. Okay, I don't go and multiply in the power with the negative sign. It's going to complicate you. So if it's bracketed with a negative power, just flip it immediately first. That will save a lot of trouble. Then we multiply the power in. So just remember your indices, a power n times n. So it's a m n. So we have v12 multiplied by 1/4 over. One thing I noticed that many students, they make a mistake is that forget to multiply the power into the numbers. Okay, the numbers are also part of a term. So you have to ensure that the 1/4 is powered for the 16 as well. Then we have t power 8, then we power 1/4. From there, we will know that when we multiply, v is power 3. 16 to the power 1/4, if you type into the calculator, it's just 2. Then t with 8 to the power of 1/4 is multiplied to give me 2. So this is just our simplification, that's all. So it's not very difficult, but just remember, don't make any mistakes when you multiply the power in. Okay, same thing, we have to check our answers. Similar to part 2C, these have multiple algebra. We have v and t. What I prefer, I like to sub v equals to 2, t equals to 3, then I check. So these are original questions, so 16 times 3 power 8 over 2 to the power of 12 to the power of negative 1/4. So after calculating, we know it's 4 over 9. Then we check our answers. Our answer is v power 3, right? So it's 2 power 3 over 2 times t power 2, which is 3 power 2. Gives me 4 over 9 as well. You notice that your answers are actually the same. So if your question value and your answer value are the same, it means that your simplification is correct. Okay, the last part for this question. So we have another fraction. This question is to solve. Solve means what? We have to go and find out what is our value for the algebra. In this case, what's x? I noticed that there are some students who don't understand what is algebra. They don't know the difference between expansion, simplification, factorization, etc., etc., solving. So you need to understand that simplification is making it look simpler. Expand is just expand. There's no solving to it. Solving is literally finding a certain value for our algebra. Okay, so here, our question, we have 2 over x minus 2 plus 3x plus 4 equals to 1. So you notice that there's an equal to 1 over here. So this is where we can solve for the x. So like I said before, I don't really like fractions. I don't like to solve algebra with a lot of denominators that's going to hinder me. So what do I do? So in this case, I want to remove my denominator as much as possible. So what I do is, I have a denominator of this, x minus 2 and x plus 4. The simplest way to remove the denominator is literally just multiply the whole entire equation here with both of the denominators. This whole thing, I multiply by x minus 2, x plus 4. By doing so, I can remove my denominators away. So just for illustration purposes, what we have is x minus 2, x plus 4 times 2 over x minus 2 plus x minus 2, x plus 4 times 3 over x plus 4 equals to 1 times x minus 2. So this is what it is supposed to be. Then you will notice that this can be cancelled away. So essentially what we have is x plus 4 times 2 plus x minus 2 times 3 equals to x minus 2, x plus 4. So this step is actually for illustration purposes. You can actually skip this step when you're going to write into your answers, because it's quite obvious that when you multiply throughout your denominator, what is left behind is only this, because I've removed my denominator. So this is what it is. So try to digest this step. Then we expand. So we'll have 2x plus 8 plus 3x minus 6 equals to x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8. Then we shift all to the left-hand side. So I will have x squared. Okay, if I shift to the left-hand side for purpose sake, negative x squared plus 2x plus 3x minus 4x plus 2x plus 8 minus 6 plus 8 equals to 0. From there, I simplify. So I have negative x squared plus 3x. Then I have plus plus 10 equals to 0. But then I don't really like to see the negative on my x squared. So what I do is I multiply the whole thing by -1. So everything becomes times negative. So I'll have x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals to 0. From here, I can solve. I want to solve, so we don't stop here. I want to find out what is x. So we can factorize. So we have x here, 5, 2 equals to 0. So what we have is x equals to -2, x equals to 5. Okay, you can do. So x and x. Then we have -5 and 2. This gives me -5x and 2x, which will be -5x plus 2x, giving me -3x. So let's say for factorizing, one trick that I will want to teach is that when it is a -10, for example, your factors must be a negative multiplied by a positive, right? How can we get negative? We only can get negative when my value here and here, one is negative, one is positive. If both are negative, I will have a positive 10. If both are positive, I will give a positive 10. So in order to have a -10, both of my factors, one must be positive, one must be negative. And another trick is that this is a -3x. In order to have a -3x, my value that contains the negative must be the larger number. Why? Because we have to add these two terms together, right? So when we do this, you notice that we add the two terms together. So in order to have a final value of a -3x, I must ensure the number that I'm going to multiply, the larger number is the negative, the smaller number is the positive. Okay, so that's the trick for me. And for example, if I have x squared plus 4x plus 4, in this case, since it's a positive and a positive on both sides, my factor must both be positive, right? Because in order to get the positive 4, I need to have a positive multiplied by a positive or a negative multiplied by a negative. So why do we want to ensure is positive than positive for this example? The reason is very simple. Because to have a plus 4x, I need to have positive adding to a positive to give me an overall positive 4x. If I use this, what will happen? Negative plus negative gives me what? Negative number, right? So we are unable to derive the 4x plus 4x. So what if question is -4x? Then in that case, we have to choose the negative times negative one. So my answer will be negative and negative. Okay, so this is some trick that we deal with when we do factorization. Okay, it's easier and faster. So of course, last step, how do we check? So same thing, this is a solution question. We solve. So we are unable to randomly put any value for x because x have a value. So we must utilize these values for checking. So what we do is, our answer is x equals to -2 and x equals to 5. So what we do is we sub x equals to -2 into the question, 2 over -2 minus 2 plus 3, -2 plus 4. So after calculation, is your answer 1? If yes, then -2 is a proper solution. If it doesn't derive into 1, it means that -2 is not a proper solution for this equation. So same thing, we took 2 over 5 minus 2 plus 3 over 5 plus 4. It also gives me 1. If it gives you 1, means your answer is correct. So for example, if you want to try, you can put x equals to 4. Okay, you see whether 2 over 4 minus 2 plus 3 over 4 plus 4, does it give me 1? It will not give you 1. Okay, if you press in the calculator, it's not 1. So when your answer is not 1, it means that it doesn't satisfy the question. It means that your solution is definitely wrong. From there, you can check. So this type of question, once you derive your answer, -2 and 5, you sub in to check. If your answer is correct, means that mark is yours already. So this is how we ensure all our algebra questions are 100% correct. We have to check. Okay, that's all for this algebra question. So we have come to the end. So thank you for joining us today. So do subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.